Hello and welcome back everyone. Today I am going to be casting quite a few games from a recent replay pack that was released on teamliquid.net by Hellokitty, him or herself. I am not quite sure, to be honest, but this is a very high level GM in HOTS, and if you do not know, all of the HOTS servers are currently combined, which means that if you are GM in HOTS, you are not only top 200 on your server, you are top 200 in the world, which does not seem like a huge accomplishment, but when you're talking about the fact that you have SEA, which is basically Oceania, then you also have the Korean server, you also have the Taiwanese server, you also have the US server, you also have the EU server, and the China is not technically involved in that, but that is 5 servers with a hell of a lot of high level players, as a ton of actual pros have been switching over as well. And yeah, so as we are going to see, she or he does play quite a lot of professional players, some teamless, some you may know, some you may not, but all very good. So let's get into the game then. We have, as the Protoss player, in the top right, spawning as our red Protoss, Ragnorak, also known as Hellokitty, depending on what server you are playing on. And bottom left, we do have TSLRagnorak. And as we can see, he is technically no longer on Team SCV Life. They are, in fact, not a team anymore. They unfortunately did have to disband, but as you can see, he did, in fact, state that he is on Team LGIM, who is an amazing team. We're talking about players like MVP. We're talking about players like Nesty. And not to mention Ragnorak. Also, if you don't know, if you don't keep up with the scene quite as crazy, LGIM was kind of in trouble with some sponsorship issues. There was talks that LG would in fact be pulling out, but there was a massive amount of feedback from the fans and from the players, from the community in general, and LG has in fact decided to re-sponsor IM. Incredible Miracles, as they are one of the tip-top teams. I mean, they're just so good. They have Losira. I mean, the names just go on and on and on. Absolutely crazy GSL winners. They have tournament wins. I mean, if you win a tournament there, it's not even that big of a deal. They're so good. It's almost expected at this point. But anyways, we will see quite a good game. So what do we expect here? It is HOTS. The meta has switched just a little bit. It is still typically a Forge Fast Expand type of game, but you never know, because there are a lot of 2-base builds coming out, especially from Zerg, with a lot of the new layer tech options. You got the Speed Hydras. You have the out-of-combat healing mutas, which is always nice. Very similar to what the Reaper has nowadays. You also have the Swarm Hosts. Completely new unit, nothing that was redone or anything like that. It is basically a siege unit. You just root those babies right here, we'll say, send your locusts up, and they do have a range of 2, so they're basically melee, but technically not. It does allow them to engage just behind things like Zerglings, so that can make for a nice little attack. We do see a Forge Fast Expand coming out. Photon Cannon in the mineral line. Would have probably preferred that it maybe be like out here if he could manage it, but now it can protect both the gases and this entire mineral line. It'll obstruct this mining just a tad bit, but not really that big of a deal, to be honest. And Ragnarok's going to need to get that Overlord out of here at some point. Third base coming down, pretty standard stuff so far. Does look like we are going to be seeing a very macro-oriented game. We do see Ragnorak. I'm just going to call her, or him, Hellokitty, because that's how I mostly know them. And oh no, in fact, it is just a pixel off. If you can see, this little division right here is slightly different than how large this division is. Not really that big of a deal though. Yes, in pro play, I have had quite a difficult time as well on Antiga Shipyard. With how these gas sit, there's actually kind of like a bay that the command structures should sit back in. So we do see Twilight Council coming on down. And this is interesting, strictly because no upgrades have been researched. So this does not mean that Hellokitty is going to be moving into any sort of +2 weapons aggression. But in fact, it does make me think DTs, as the Dark Shrine is a little cheaper in this game compared to Wings of Liberty. And are we going to see some sort of proxy action possibly? But this Overlord is just going to spot it, it looks like. What are you doing, little mischief probe? Dark Shrine does go down in a very tough spot to spot. In fact, if you're an Overlord, you're going to have to come all the way over here, and there's already a stalker in position. And if you're coming from this side, well, you have to deal with the cannon, so you're dead. You do see this probe getting chased away. He was more than likely going to try and put down a proxy pylon right here, but he was found out and thus thwarted. 3 more gates coming down. Layer on the way. Only 2 gas up right now for our Zerg player. So more than likely he's just going to be easing very nicely into his Roach tech. And then we'll see what his layer tech of choice in fact is. +1 weapons. Was being chronoed out? Not anymore. There's tons of chrono on this Nexus, and this is not something that you would see typically out of a GM player, but hey, might be saving it up to chrono all of these gateways to just pump out a sick amount of DTs. And as we see, 3 DTs already going down. Where in fact are they? Out in the middle of the map, and where are they headed is the big question. Are they each going to be going to an individual base, as there is a Spore Crawler here, Spore Crawler going up here, and in the main? It does look like they're only going to get a couple of kills, but with this Overseer finding this one out, what's going to happen down here? It does look like not too much damage occurred. Not too much damage coming down here either, and the DT is still running rampant up here, but he is going to get quite a lot of kills, as we can see 6 already. And we'll take a look at the units lost tab. 14 workers killed. I can't say that that was worth the investment, but now she does, or he does, have in fact the ability to still make DTs, and with the aggression got up her 3rd base, which is always nice. You do want to try and keep up with these Zerg as far as macro is concerned, but there is a lot of counter aggression coming out here, and we are going to need to see some huge warbins. Yes, there are 2 cannons here, but there are only 6 gateways out on the field, and that may not be enough. There's going to have to be some pretty sick force fields here. Does look like Ragnorak is aware he cannot engage without these roaches. And are we going to see this pushed up into the 3rd? That's where I would fancy my chances much better than said natural. But it does look like no aggression for now. Just gonna make sure these proxy pylons are picked off. Great little thing to note, that this observer is in fact with, or not observer, Overseer. This is not a Protoss player. The Overseer is in fact with the army, just in case any DTs. Spire coming down, as well as Enduring Locusts. So it looks like this is in preparation, as far as the Spire is concerned, for the late game. And we are going to see Ragnorak test out these Locusts, but in fact he's going to get an Investor as well. So just really making a diverse army. Pretty cool. Oh no, the Overseer dies. 5 Swarm Hosts, in fact, will be coming out. And I would really like to see them just positioned to, like, right there. That way, you can hit anything coming up the ramp, you can still guard this ever-important gold base. Very interesting to note. I had not noticed this, and I'm not sure if this is something that has been there all along, but there are only 6 gold mineral patches now, which means that this base is in fact 25% less than what it was before, as it did have 8. That is very, very, very big. Another nice, a contamination to stop this +3 weapons. Very important, because Protoss can get up to +3 extremely quickly, like way before. As we can see, there's not even upgrades out for Ragnorak yet. Which, at this point, he should have, but he's on Team IM. We will leave him be for now. One infestor, the lone infestor. As we can see, these locusts are just now halfway done, or expired, if you will. Would like to see him maybe even move these guys up farther. The nice thing about the locusts is, yes, they're technically free, but these swarm hosts are not a cheap unit at all. And that way you can kind of just keep your opponent at bay. You constantly know where they're at. Oh, but we do see more TDs. What are you fellows doing? And the Overseer does spot some of these DTs moving out, but not all of them. There are, in fact, 2 more going to check for all sorts of bases, because Hellokitty is not aware that the gold base has been taken, and now this is quite a large amount. 15 swarm hosts. As we can see, they're going to be able to just trade with these Blink Stalkers, really start doing some hull damage, picking off a few, even without, or with Blink. They can do some sustained damage. 3, in fact, going down, quite a few injured as well. These Corruptors are just going to take out the Mama ship and probably be used to cast Corruption. They are fairly new, so the cooldown is just now expiring. Choosing to reinforce with a lot of Corruptors. Very interesting. Does look like he's going to be switching straight into Broodlord tech, as his hive is on the way, +1 as well, and he has triple Evo chambers. So no, it does look like he's going to go into Corruptor Viper. Very cool, interesting kind of concept. Not sure exactly how effective it's going to be, as neither can in fact attack the ground. Just unburrowing all of these swarm hosts briefly, and this puts a hell of a lot of pressure on Kitty, because she constantly has to blink back these stalkers, and in fact is not. As we can see, it's losing quite substantially more, but a huge blink on top of the swarm hosts with that observer there. It does get picked off, but now that blink is not what you wanted, and as we can see, a ton of losses. Ragnarok is really being cost effective. This is actually quite impressive. This is showing the power of these swarm hosts, along with corruption coming down from the corruptors. This is a hell of a combination. I have never actually quite considered this. And the Zerg player now being on 4 bases. Oh, we do have a very, very big blink and a small fungal coming down, so this pack of stalkers will in fact be lost, but he is going to try and blink around just to do a ton of damage. Pull the army back. These poor swarm hosts might get picked off. Great fungal, and if you guys don't know, fungal is technically now a projectile. There's a huge amount of swarm hosts here now. What is this guy doing? No, swarm host, don't go up there. That is to your death. DT's coming out now, and there's no detection, so these swarm hosts are going to start falling very quickly. In fact, 2 already going down, a 3rd as well, and more than likely a 4th. So these DTs, yes, the investment was kind of big early on, but they are paying off very heavily. That poor Overseer getting sniped so aggressively. Broodlord's being morphed in the face of the danger. And there's nothing that can really shoot up there. That's kind of funny, actually. Tons of Blink Stalkers. Not really a terrible amount of tech coming out of Kitty so far, and as we can see, she's just so far behind right now in the supply. And the bank for our Zerg player is hilarious at worst. If we go to the unit station, he has 25 auto, so he's not going to be able to make a huge swell of units, but in fact will be able to remax fairly quickly, assuming that this engagement doesn't happen. But there is a very large engagement, huge blink up into the main as well. And now with these Broodlords sieging up the main, this is not looking good for Kitty. G was in fact called. Ragnorak does take the game. This was a great game, really displaying the power of the new swarm hosts. I must say, the ability to keep your opponent at bay that willingly is quite nice. I'm sure, though, that the Protoss here soon enough will have an answer for it, as they are fairly new units. This is still beta. Yeah, so thank you for watching. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the casting. I'm a pretty new caster. Would love some feedback. Is it terrible? Did you like it? What did I do wrong? What did I do right? Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys soon.